asking for that.
A little kid, so proud of my wife, whose new book. Show us the book.
Thank you.
The Relentless Courage of a Scared Child is in bookstores now. And Tana did a live book signing.
I did.
For a couple of hours.
Virtual book signing.
And you were on New Life Radio today. And Dr. Perlmutter's podcast came out today.
Carolyn Leaf on Thursday.
I am just so proud. So I just wanted to take some time. So obviously I'm proud of you because
Thank you.
I'm your husband and I encouraged you to write this book. She almost didn't write the book.
Yeah, I almost backed out even after I made the deal.
But one of my favorite stories in the book is how you came to terms with people who hurt you when you were a child.
Yeah.
And could you just talk a little bit about what happened at the Salvation Army? I mean, that was really an important program that you and I worked on together.
So I'm speaking at one of the largest chemical addiction recovery programs in the country, and I don't want to be there because I'm feeling judgmental, and it doesn't make sense unless you read the book and you understand why I feel judgmental. But I had been hurt by drugs in my family and mental illness, addiction, and significantly. It caused a lot of trauma in my childhood. But as I'm getting on stage, I'm thinking, what am I going to teach these people about gluten and dairy when they're jonesing for a pipe and a needle? And I'm having these awful thoughts. And it occurs to me, I'm a nurse. I'm educated. Why am I being so judgmental and just so awful? But I can't seem to stop it. And so I say a prayer as I'm getting up on stage, because I do that. And as I'm walking up, I'm praying. I'm like, God, please help me reach just one person if I can, because right now I'm not doing such a good job on my own. How am I going to reach them if I'm just thinking of them as addicts? And, and I felt like God answered my prayer, because all of a sudden I looked out and I had this feeling, and there was just sort of this epiphany and this thought, at one time they were in the same place I was as a scared child. At one time we were all just scared children. That's really where the title came from. At one time, if I could go back before all of, when people made whatever decisions they made in their life, before all of that, we were all just scared children. And so, and that's when I was able to connect. And so I thought, even coming forward now into this day and age, right now, there's so much just tension and chaos in our world. And it's we have so many labels: Democrat, Republican, Black, white, whatever, Christian, Muslim, I don't care what you want to label people. The minute we do that, we put up roadblocks. But if we can go back to when we were just kids playing in a sandbox, we can connect with people. And I love
that so much.
And I'm grateful, because I'm just grateful to all of you. This was a scary thing for me to do before I did it. Now I'm really grateful, and I feel very liberated since I've actually done it. But I read your comments. I'm really grateful. I go on social media and I actually pay attention to what you guys write to me. And I'm so happy to have you guys all on this journey with me. And I'm glad I didn't back out. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who has followed along, who has pre-ordered the book, who has sent in their questions and joined us on this journey. And it's been very...
Well, there's so many great comments. I got mine today. Excited to read it, from Katrina. Oh my gosh, love seeing you live. We went to your clinic in Chicago a few years ago. Learned so much. I'm from Montreal. How can I find all the services you offer in my city? We haven't gotten to Canada yet, but Chicago's not far. New York is not far. We see so many people from Canada. Another story in the book that is heartwarming is actually how we met and how I scanned you early on. Right. I've been
points for lines. I've heard a lot of lines in my life. And can I see your brain? I'm like, no one's actually told me they wanted to see my naked brain. I'm like,
well, I didn't word it quite like that.
But that's what I heard.
That's sort of what I wanted. because when we first met, which was 15 years ago, Sunday.
15 years.
15 years ago, Sunday. I mean, the first time I saw her, well, you can see she's beautiful. She's also smart. She was a neurosurgical ICU nurse. So, I mean, deeply caring. And we bonded over the brain. And I was just so taken with her. But I desperately wanted to see her brain. That was the first part of her brain I wanted to see, because when you love someone whose brain is too busy or not busy enough, it's stressful. And as a psychiatrist, I have a stressful job. Didn't want to come home.
Yeah.
I fell in love with you anyways.
I love that chapter, and it really does tell the story of our journey and our love story. And a lot of people would assume that it was like this really great fairy tale romance, but I'm the girl who didn't believe in fairy tales, and I was pretty broken at the time, and so I made sure it wasn't. I made sure it was a little more complicated than that. But
yes, you tortured me.
But
for
you
about
were,
18 months.
but you were amazing, and you wouldn't go away. And I was on New Life today, and I was talking to Dr. Sherry Denham. She's amazing. Keffer, and she's amazing. And she said something. She made a comment about that. She said, because you wouldn't go away, you were the first man who ever showed me that it was safe. Like, you were the first man who ever created that safe space by not going away, not in a creepy way, not in a stalkerish way, but in a, but by just, you were willing to be my friend, even when that's not what you wanted, but you were willing to do that, which told me something so different from what I had ever been shown. It was such a different model from what I had ever been shown. And that's when I began to let my guard down. That's when I began to, because I kept waiting. I'm like, nobody is this nice. No one is this nice. It's fake. You're manipulating me. And I kept waiting for the other shoe to fall, because that just wasn't my experience in life.
You waited a long time.
Yeah.
So who's the book for? Who do you think would really benefit?
So anyone who has really struggled with childhood trauma, chaos in your life growing up, and not just childhood. So I had a series of stressors that series of traumas that stacked in my adolescence. But then in my early 20s, I made some bad decisions. So sometimes, things happen to us. Sometimes we make bad decisions. We sort of make things happen. And so, there's a lot of self-loathing and shame that goes along with that. And so learning to forgive not only other people, but yourself. And then people who struggle with family members with mental illness and addiction, because that was, for me, really hard to forgive people with, that created chaos in my life. And that was the big lesson. One of the big lessons is it's easy to call people bad. It's harder to ask why. Behavior is complicated. And when I wrote my story and was able to go back and I had to interview people, and I'm looking at it now through the lens of an adult who's educated, who has life experience, not the 4-year-old. I was able to reprocess it differently.
That is so important.
And that 4-year-old saved me, right? That 4-year-old that developed those strategies, those survival strategies at the time, that was necessary. But those weren't strategies that help me now. And so I needed to go back and tell that 4-year-old
strategy is not going to help you now.
Right. And so I needed to go back and tell that 4-year-old, good job. You did a good job. And now it's okay to let it go, because now I've got this. We're okay, right? Because an adult strategy is so much more important.
It's so important. If you have hurts, all of us have hurts, that to really look at it from a best friend's perspective. I was talking to one of my patients, and I said, would you ever talk like that to one of your friends?
Right?
No. Would you ever talk like that you're talking about yourself to one of your children? And I was praying she would say no.
Well, most of us would never allow someone else to talk to us that way. Most of us would never allow someone to be as cruel as we are to ourselves, over and over and over. Yeah.
So learning how to direct your mind, I just think it's a spectacular story, and that you'll get great benefit. in the book, you'll laugh because there's a lot of funny
read
parts. You'll cry because there's a lot of very sad parts. You'll go, oh my.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, yeah. And this is the family friendly version. And so I had one outlet tell me, I'm not sure we can have you on with this book because it's a little racy for our audience. And I'm like, well, this is the PG-13 version. I'm really glad that I didn't put the other stuff in.
Yeah, when they make the movie.
Someone said, I used to swear you two are twin flames. Oh, I just lost that. Where'd it go? Oh, that just went away. There was a cute, where'd it go?
Well, I don't know.
I just lost that comment. Okay, well, someone said we were twin flames. It was really cute. You are my best friend, but we are so opposite. It's hilarious.
Oh,
he's the yin to my yang.
I opened my book today and my 18-year-old daughter immediately swiped it and started it right away. It's so good, Mom. LOL. She'll read it faster anyway.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, thank you so much. That makes me feel so good. You know what surprised me? Because I think the target audience for the book was 35 to 65-year-old women. I've been getting more comments from younger women, but also from men. That was the big surprise to me. I got
men will love this.
I actually got two of my most powerful testimonials from men who had been through childhood trauma.
So here's that quote. I used to swear you two are twin flame in union and purpose.
Oh, I love that.
The two shall become one.
Yes. Yes.
Patients feel positive when they see happy nurse and doctor. Well, we often say doctors tell you what to do.
Although nurses tell you what to do too. We're pretty bossy.
Nurses show you how to do it. Yes, this one is bossy.
You don't work in a neurosurgical ICU unit and not be bossy.
She is working around neurosurgeons.
Yeah, you have to be bossy.
So what should we do to celebrate the release? So we wanted to celebrate with you. We're not big drinkers. But for me, the celebration is just to feel joy and appreciation. And like the 18-year-old who swiped the book and said, it's so good.
Oh, I love that.
It is. It's really good. You know, another group this book is for, if you're having trouble deciding whether or not someone should be in your life, this book will help you with that.
Yeah, boundaries. So that came up today when I was on New Life. Someone called in and said, I'm feeling, because I had a couple of, you'll read in the book where I disconnected from all of my family. I'm like, done. Like the Jerry Springer thing, I'm done with it. I'm
shouldn't have married.
Right. You can't marry a psychiatrist if you want to stay disconnected from people. So, but as I reconnected with two people in my life, two family members, and I realized, God had been calling me to reconnect with some people who needed my help. And I didn't want to. It was really uncomfortable for me. And I resisted it, but the help was for me. I gave them help. The healing was for me. So the help was for them, but the healing was for me. It was really important. And a guy called in and he said, now I'm feeling guilty because I've disconnected from my family and I'm feeling like, am I not supposed to do that? And I'm like, no, not necessarily. Like, it's really important to be clear about this. And I love what Dr. Kepper said. She said, you only reconnect with people if it's emotionally safe. So you reconnect with people if it's emotionally safe to do so. And for me, what that meant at the time was I had to get help to learn how to set boundaries. And by setting boundaries, I first figured out what my boundaries were. Then I made them clear to other people, the people in my life who I disconnected from. It's like, if you want to be back in my life, these are my boundaries. Some people could respect that and some people could not. The people who could not, the people who threaten, who, complain, bully, all of those things. Those are not people that respect your boundaries. And those are people who I still love them. I choose to forgive them. I don't hold on to the anger because that just hurts me more than it hurts them. But I need to love them from a distance. It's like, I love you and I will miss you.
Wow. I want to answer this question from Ronald Butts. I have awful brain fog and short-term memory problems and can't see a neurologist because of COVID. Doctors can't figure out what's wrong. I actually have a book. It's the red one. Where is it? It's here somewhere. Called Memory Rescue. you should get that book and go through it, because odds are it will help you figure out why you have brain fog.
Mm-hmm.
And often there are things in there like inflammation or gut health issues or toxic exposure that will help you figure that out, where many neurologists will go, I don't know, take this. And so memory rescue can be really helpful. And that's why Tana and I write. I mean, we love writing and expressing ourselves and being helpful, but it's really about taking practical issues people have and giving them a way forward that is different. But I have to tell you, the relentless courage of a scared child is way more interesting than most of my books. I mean, my books are helpful.
It's because you get a voyeuristic look into my messed up life.
But she's hot in so many ways. And the story will just inspire you, horrify you. I mean, it's a thriller. The movie Relentless Courage will be a thriller. And
so many of you are posting, leaving comments about how you just got your book today. And I would be so grateful to those of you who, to hear, not only to hear back from you, but if you would post a review for me, I'd be super grateful. And I've just been so encouraged with you guys.
Just ordered it on Audible. It is great. The audio version is actually read by a friend of ours.
I'm so happy.
It is inspired.
So I actually got into a little bit of a tussling match, if you will, with the publisher over that, because I wanted to read it myself, because I was really, I had one of my books read by someone who didn't do it justice. It was very monotone. And this is not a book that can be read monotone. And so they promised me, they're like, we need someone who this is what they do. And so I was reluctant. Well, they picked someone, coincidentally, if you believe in coincidence, who we know very well. And
who's been the producer on most of my audiobooks.
She was magnificent. I could never have read it as well as she did. Yeah, she was magnificent.
There's another question from Deborah Ray. My brain thinking is different since a major lung surgery.
That makes sense.
Get memory rescue, because I talk about the impact of general anesthesia on the brain, and your brain needs rehab, and your brain can be so much better.
Yeah, I had a hysterectomy 2 years ago, and for the first year and a half, I didn't feel normal. I told you that. I'm like, I feel like I'm walking through mud.
You feel great. You feel really good.
But we scanned me, and because I know what general
the anesthesia is not good, and Tana goes in our hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah, I spend a ton of time in the chamber. Yeah, because I didn't feel right. So yeah, so I love these comments. Thank you so much. Love
listening. Look, the first chapter is so great. Can't wait to read it.
Somebody said, oh, that's so sweet. Love your wife. Her smile is contagious. Oh, thank you so much. Spreads positivity.
Love is profound.
Thank you.
And as a hospice nurse for sisters and brothers,
my gosh,
New Mexico Taos, be kind all.
So I have to say something to the hospice nurse. There's a story about a hospice nurse in the book, because wow, you guys are wired so differently than us that work in trauma and neurosurgical ICU. And when I was going through a situation with my dad, there's a really great story about my dad when we reconnected. He died in my arms, actually in my house. And man, those hospice nurses were amazing. I am used to like barking orders barked at me. We're like, ABCs, airway, breathing, circulation, just like get the blood, get the air, get the ventilator. And hospice nurses have to do the opposite. They have to learn to let people die with dignity and to be so calm and so soothing. And I was getting migraines when my dad was dying because I couldn't do that. And the hospice nurse was just a savior. I mean, she was amazing in how she just navigated that whole thing and helped me navigate it. So thank you.
So there are more questions. What do I think about cannabis for anxiety? It's number 20. It is not in the top 10 because it causes so many other problems and prematurely ages the brain, according to a large study I published. Yeah,
and you're not against it morally. You just don't like what it does to the brain.
Right. Colleen says, my 21-year-old is getting scanned tomorrow.
Oh.
I need to understand why a computer science major with 3.0 is now failing and is not motivated at all. He's telling us he's failing because of COVID, do a marijuana test, and being in isolation. All of those things are possible. And so many people do things to help them feel better now, but not later, versus now and later.
But I wouldn't.
It can also be things like a head injury.
Yeah, and it also, though, I wouldn't underestimate our youth right now is really, they haven't experienced anything like that. We haven't experienced anything like this, but at least we've got more life experience. I mean, we've got 3 teenagers in the house. It's hard. This is hard. They have suffered so much loss as far as their identity and what they're going through,
and their routine,
and they get depressed really quickly.
Major risk factor.
Yeah.
For Alzheimer's. But it's a good idea to look at his brain, because if you don't, you can assume it's because they don't care or because of the isolation, when it may be something else.
Someone wants to know if we have scholarships for people who can't afford scans. We are working diligently on our foundation. That is how we gave away the scan when we did our event. We are, we're constantly trying to build up the foundation, because that's how we.
So if you just Google Change Your Brain, Change Your Life Foundation, you can apply for scholarships through the foundation. Likewise, you can donate money so we can do
And I donate to it every
work.
year so that someone can benefit from that, so that, people can benefit from that.
They love when we both go live. I love that we're alive.
That we need to do it more.
Well, thank you for all. I am here to congratulate my beautiful wife and life partner, and tell your friends. I mean, get Relentless Courage of a Scared Child. It's anywhere. Great books are sold. Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, Books A Million. And if you order the book, you can also go to relentlesscourage.com and download a whole bunch
for this week
of free gifts that Tana has for you, but just this week. Yeah. All right. Be well, everybody.
Thank you so much.